SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeeps.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening,
I'm sorry.
wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast number 73.
You're going to see
and-
why we need Jeff
and-
on
and-
today's episode.
And we are the masters of our own destiny. And I'm boggled at our inability
He
to
keeps
do.
pressing buttons.
I am pressing buttons. I thought, oh, how hard could this be? Jeffrey's out of town. Our fantastic producer, the Italian Stallion, he did that fantastic pushed camper build
Yes.
that that he pushed through. Kevin Halloran, obviously, a lot of people saying good morning, Ray. Kevin says you guys are really professional at Jeeps, so I'm gonna take that for a win.
That's a compliment.
Yes, that audio production is
I mean,
not.
if they remember the dark years, that's what it was. Just you and me doing this. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
The literal dark years.
Literally dark years. We could, of course, at some point in time, somewhere around like episode number 100.
Yeah.
Chip Fury says good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Chip.
And Paul is here, and Keith Dart, and Kevin Halloran. So a lot of people are logged on and listening. We appreciate all of
We're
you.
excited to see the greatness this will be.
The greatness or the fantastic dumpster fire
Yeah.
that this might be. Around episode 100, we should reflect on our humble beginnings
Yes.
of the
Very,
podcast.
very humble.
Okay, yeah, we got 20, 30 episodes to get to before that. But as I was pontificating, or prior to pontificating, my name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, SFJ4x4.com. That's my best performance automotive announcer voice. And you, sir, I'm joined by...
The mad scientist Scott Brown. I'm really excited this weekend.
Wow,
This weekend.
you're gelling, man. You're gelling from this weekend. You had a roller coaster ride.
Yes.
You had good and bad.
Yeah.
I just had good and just exhaustion.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that here in a hot second. So we've got people chiming in. That's cool. I hope that there's video. If there's video out there, you should let us know.
Yes.
Otherwise, I've botched something once again. Joe Brilla says, "I'm not here. I'm merely a figment of your imagination."
That's probably true.
Ooh, like a phantom. Yes. So we've got a lot of good things going on. Today, we are going to be talking about outfitting your home shop.
Yep.
Right? And then we'll have a product review, hashtag not sponsored, that is loosely based on that as well.
Yep.
And we'll be talking all about that. And it's valuable to say that, we'll be talking about the shop where you guys are at, where our listeners are coming from. And Scott and I have not always been on the professional side of things, so we understand the ups and downs of our personal garages. And Darla's saying good morning. So, and then Chip is saying that the video is working. So
Yay.
we're doing something right. If this is your first time joining us, either be it on the live or in your ear holes while you're commuting or flying or doing whatever endeavor, and could be mowing the grass this time of year, we appreciate you sincerely in the process. I know my phone's ringing on set now. Yeah, this is gonna be a banger, guys. I'm gonna tell you. And if this is your first time listening to us, I apologize. We're 73 episodes in, and you know what? Scott and I aren't audio producers.
That's true.
That's what we're not. And just take a moment to reflect and appreciate Jeffrey for all that he does on the front end and then on the back of the house as far as the audio and podcast production. So A big shout out to him. We equally were not able to do the American Hustle, which has been just a wonderful side project that he and I have been working on. It released on April 19th, and it has been killing it. It's fantastic. And Joe Brilla adds in, if I had a home shop, parentheses, and I knew what I was doing, I wouldn't need you guys. Oh, well, I would hope you would still come to us, Joe, just for some of the little stuff.
Yeah.
Darlin says, I wish we could mow. I know we've been underwater.
So bad.
Brad Davis, it's all good, fellas. Glad you're here. And Kevin Halloran, Jeff's value is growing by the second. These are all factual statements.
Yes.
These are all factual. So, as far as the weekend, the highs, the lows, or the past week, what's been on your radar, Mad Scientist?
So we had sadly unexpected death in the family with my wife's family.
Mhm.
Just 31 years old. We gathered a blood clot that went in a bad location, and bad things happened.
Sure.
So we had a memorial over the weekend for that, and it was out of town.
Their name?
What was his name?
Yeah.
Michael Laposa.
Michael Laposa.
So, anytime that happens, it doesn't matter if they're 80 or 90 or 31. It definitely makes you reflect. Definitely when you're hear of a young death, it's even worse.
Sure.
So it kind of takes the wind out of your sails a little bit, and so that's where we're kind of at.
Yeah, that's tough, and it's important. No, other than some stereotypical health issues, this was highly unexpected, which is always really challenging when we face our own mortality in that sense. So
100%,
no doubt.
Other than that, had club stuff Saturday afternoon, so didn't get a whole lot done in the garage over this weekend, but still plugging away at the car and outfitting my shop.
Yeah, you've been outfitting your shop, and we as a business have benefited from that. And so
I did work in the last week on the M38 project, and keep challenging myself to make panels that I don't think I could make before. And I made I have to put some on for the Patreon Discord. So I made a panel for the firewall from scratch, and figured I literally made a tool. I think they're called the corking tool, but I made my own version of it to make raised portions on it for the air cleaner and that sort of stuff mounts up. So
yeah,
I had to do that all from scratch. With it was too wide for my bead roller, so I had to figure it out.
Yeah,
got it all made and welded in. It's got to get finished welded, but it is in the firewall as we speak. So
yeah,
we're moving forward.
Yeah, that's wicked cool, and it's important to know that's a 1951 M38, which is the military version of basically a CJ 2A 3A ish.
Yep.
Right. And what's amazing is the customer has asked us to do things that, quite frankly, when originally they were asked, we thought we might have to farm it out to a body shop. We thought we might have to do something else, and it's the good and the
honestly,
bad.
We didn't know about all this damage.
We didn't know about this damage
in
the body.
Been in full panic mode.
Yeah,
if we would have found this
a
damage
year and a half ago when this,
we'd probably be talking a replacement tub, honestly. Which it's not that bad. It's definitely got some 60 years of abuse.
Sure.
So the biggest challenge is those who don't know, M38s and M38A1s, which is the CJ5 military version, has a battery box in the cowl, and that battery acid is very hungry.
Yeah.
That is why I'm replacing and doing what I did. The week before that, I literally made a battery box from almost scratch.
Right.
So
it's been pretty remarkable. Scott has been doing some nice picture updates. We'll obviously want to make those, come out live for some people to see. I know we've been updating our customer. It's really interesting to talk about our business model, because at any point in time, realistically, to have one individual pay for a full resto mod would be, fiscally, it would not make sense, right? Because if we were to try and dedicate all the resources of our entire facility to a singular individual for a short period of time,
Yeah, it'd be huge.
The financials would be huge. However, our ability to juggle multiple jobs is what seems to be one of the things that's differentiating us right now.
Yes.
And so the thing is with sprinkling, as you like to call it, So with you and your home shop, as you've outfitted it, and your ability to take on this tub there allows us to move forward with other projects, which I think is something at an ownership level I'm really proud of, that we're able to address a bunch of Jeepers needs, and as more than ever, and as we continue to grow our own skill sets, each individual here, our endeavors as a business grow as well, which is super cool.
Yep.
So as the grass is growing and
it's growing so fast,
super fast, and whether you can get to it or not, we obviously were doing maintenance on mowers.
By headlights last night.
Did you have the bee out, or did you have the
no,
deer?
I haven't even got a chance to get the bee out of the shed yet.
I was thinking about you as far as our own updates, as our own personal stuff. So for our listeners, and whether you're wholly aware, Scott and I, about 13 years ago, maybe it was a decade, somewhere between 10 and 13 years ago, we laid I was on the couch talking into the phone. I don't know what you were doing. And we talked about the lawnmowers, our riding lawnmowers, our 6 weeks of obsession of our riding lawnmowers that we were going to buy.
All the stores.
Yes.
We had measurements. We had horse purs.
We
had turning circles.
We had turning radius. We actually talked about our turn radius on our riding lawnmowers. Back in
the dark days when zero turns were $1 million.
Correct. Zero turns were not what they
professionals had zero turns.
Yes, and they were the big dog. You had to buy them, special ordered.
Yeah,
they weren't at your box
stores.
stores.
Nobody was buying Kubota tractors unless they were serious.
Right.
So I went and I looked at Sears and I looked at Huskies and I looked at all kinds of stuff, and I finally settled on a box store, John Deere.
Yes.
And then the
which was different than other box store John Deeres, right? This was supposedly.
Yeah, and I remember I found they were made in Tennessee or something, so that was a cross.
That was your big cross to die on. So for
measuring thickness of decks,
we were measuring the gauge of the decks.
Yes.
I had the 5-degree turn, so it wasn't a zero turn; it was 5 degrees. I actually special ordered, and this is before Craftsman became fully sold out to the
they had
the other lines.
3 tires in the sellout.
Yes, yeah, they had 3 tires in the sellout. Yeah. I actually special ordered. I kid you not, folks. So just like you might special order a Jeep.
He was real proud of it.
I was real proud. I special ordered a Craftsman riding lawnmower.
Yep.
And
you flexed on me. You got the 54-inch deck.
I got the 54-inch deck. Which we have rebuilt nothing short of 11 times in the last decade.
Yeah, I saw you're a little towed out right now.
I'm super towed out. And I promise
Deere doesn't have that problem.
I promise you, I bought the metal cloak of steering.
Oh no!
And I haven't dropped it on you guys yet.
Oh no!
But it's literally gold zinc plated.
Of course it is.
And I just thought, oh my god, yeah, because my Craftsman's running wicked towed out. It would give Kevin Halloran nightmares, is what it would do. Scrubbing off the inside of my tires and everything. So we're gonna rebuild the deck, put some new steering on it, bring that toe in a little bit on my riding lawnmower.
Service those decks.
So and here's the question: is, are you intending to service your Deere? Have you ever serviced
I checked the oil.
I changed my oil in that little lawnmower.
I walked by it this morning. I was like, look at this Wix filter on there.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I only run Deere filters and try to run their oil in mine. I don't know why, but
that's impressive. That's impressive.
I think about changing it. I try to do it once a season. Think about it.
No, you don't. And I try to think about it.
I think about greasing the deck once in a while. And I did get I just changed the first set of blades last year to kind of put you in perspective how much love this poor Deere gets.
No, I change my blades almost yearly.
I see. You're all good. You got them over on your workbench. You're going to sharpen them.
I'm going to sharpen them. I'm going to balance them.
Yeah.
And my OCD, my obsessive knows no levels.
Was missing.
People are always like, "Is he really that crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I mean, my Craftsman is derelict. It's fault. You know what I mean? It's just been beaten on." But
if I can say anything, I have shown the Deere zero love. And she just keeps trucking pretty darn good.
That's amazing.
For a little box store piece of junk.
Yes. We both ended up with box store pieces of junk, but man, we were making the best of them.
Yeah.
I have actually changed the hydrostatic fluid in my rear end.
I had to finally put a tire on it because it had a cut in the sidewall. It was so sad. But I had to get a yellow wheel. I do have pride.
You have standards, huh? I have pride. Well, so that's what we've been doing. We were trying to get ready to mow the grass, and obviously it's flower season for my wife. So we're in high gear
things
for
are growing so fast.
Oh my gosh! And so we're checking on the too many properties that we have, and
yeah, you got a full-time job just mowing the grass.
Yeah. So a big shout out to my neighbor who owns a landscape business in the Meadville property. He's going to be taking care of the property down there. So
thank goodness.
Yeah, fortunately. Darla weighs in and says maybe it needs to have a Jeep grill or even a classic theme to get for you to take care of it better. Right? Wouldn't that be the
that's
truth?
because I'm too busy taking care of other things. It's like, I just need to mow, and it just needs to work.
Right. Well,
which
that's
is why I picked a 1939 Alice Chalmers to keep it company. If I have no idea, but
that is the worst. The worst.
It does a good job, and also requires almost little to no maintenance.
It requires maintenance, but you're not giving it to it.
You just take the float filter down and throw it out, and so far, knock on wood, that's worked every year.
Oh my goodness.
Poor thing.
That's right. We just keep beating them into submission. Go out there and mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we are going to be addressing how you could be updating your own shop or garage.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be much.
It doesn't have to be much, and we have obviously come from very humble beginned. Yeah. And then you actually had something fantastic, and then were, because of starting out as a young man, got away from it.
Yep.
And I spent the better part of just working out under a tarp, basically,
in the driveway,
in the back of the driveway.
Yep.
So,
and not a concrete one either.
No, I worked in a dirt driveway.
Here.
No. If I wasn't kneeling on limestone or some other dirt and rock pebble in my knee while I was changing a tire, it wasn't working on a vehicle.
We built up a couple shops and had to change and move and get rid of and gain and sell and all kinds of stuff.
So I thought we would talk a little bit about our own experience, because I think it's interesting when we hang out online and we hear people talk about, well, if I had this or I had that. And quite frankly, I always used to say my own thing was, I'm going to be dangerous someday when I actually have a roof over my head. I'm going to be dangerous when I have the right tools and I don't have to drag them out of the basement.
Keeps expanding.
And it keeps expanding, right? And that's my own obsessive nature. However, a lot of people may not be familiar with those experiences of ours. Yep. And if we had, if you've made it this far in the podcast, when we talk about I Speak Jeep, it is the rugged individualism, the interest in DIYing that attracts us to this brand, typically.
Yep.
And it was an interesting article this past weekend about luxury Jeeps, the fact that people are still attracted to this brand, and yet somehow we're going to be pushing $100,000 for a Rubicon,
Yep.
But it is that mentality that, hey, I might like to do a little DIY. I might like to customize this vehicle a little bit.
You don't have to do a lot. Just something.
No, and one of the problems that I feel like we encounter socially is how often somebody says, "Well, I could do this, but," and I'm as a professional, like, that's okay. Like, we don't expect you to be able to do it at our level, and quite frankly, I don't really care. If it's you're physically unable, you don't have the facility to do it,
that's
the tools.
Understandable.
It's all understandable things. We were there,
but it's sometimes fun to tinker, even if it's small tasks. The mailbox door falls off and you're able to go out and get that back on there.
Oh, you just feel good.
You feel good. You feel accomplished.
That squeaky door on your front porch, and you tighten up the hinges and you throw a little fluid film on there.
Yep.
And now that door doesn't squeak when you walk in. You just feel good.
Yep, 100%.
I'm with you. So we'll be talking a little bit about our garage experiences and what you could add to your life to maybe make it just a little bit better.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about, I'd like to kind of task you with, if we just had 3 things.
Yep.
What would that be? What would that look like? To keep 3 things in mind as you set up your own shop or garage. And I always think it was funny. When I was starting out, I wanted to have a shop
Yeah.
not a garage.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting to kind of, what does that word actually entail or mean to us?
Right.
You know, and to say, and I've seen a couple other startup businesses or startup guys, and they talk about, well, I'm going to head over to the shop, you know, and they make sure that you say that. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know that I'm so concerned with the words anymore. I'm building, facility, shop, garage, just that space, you know,
Yep.
that you can get stuff done, which is pretty cool, you
Yep.
know? So what are your thoughts? If you were 3 things deep.
So if I was starting out today and I was going to just tinker, I'm not looking to build a car or rebuild a Jeep or put a lift kit on myself or that kind of stuff. This is something that I feel that if you start with these 3 things, you can expand into whatever you so desire. And I feel these things are also something that you're investing in that is not a bad investment. So say you do this and suddenly you're like, no, this isn't quite for me.
Okay.
Sell them off. You can easily get your money back out of it.
Interesting.
And first thing is an air compressor.
Mm-hmm.
Air compressor can be as small or as big as you need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. I know there's a saying going, don't get it right, just get it done. That's kind of where you're at with your air compressor. Just something that pumps air.
Sure.
And it can be as simple as you need to fill up your child's basketball,
Mm-hmm.
to you need to be able to pump up your tires, to running a full shop where you plumb it and you have sandblasters, that kind of stuff. But you have to start somewhere, and you buy the best compressor you can afford, and that's kind of
for where you're at.
For where
right?
you're at, the size and the cost kind of puts you in the pigeonhole where you need to be. Gallons and all that other stuff kind of doesn't matter. It will do what you need it to do. Next thing is, whatever space you're working out of, upgrade that electrical. Make sure that you have enough outlets, lights,
Mm-hmm.
plugs, the appropriate electrical for the air compressor, appropriate ability to expand that electrical. Don't just go in with one outlet and 15 power strips. Take the time,
Right.
run some electrical, and
Sounds like my office space here.
anyway. And again, I feel like that's an investment. Say you're in a small spot, and you maybe even a shed. That is an upsell.
100% could be a shed, right?
And that person, say you're selling that property in 10 years. Hey, the shed's fully wired. It's got plugs and stuff. That's a big selling point
Yes.
for that. And then my last thing is kind of a little play, but get a welder. Just get any old buzz box. I don't care if you go to Harbor Freight.
went 0 to 100 on me there.
Yeah, but at the same time, you just get a little 110 buzz box, just something you can stick pieces of metal together and practice and play. And again, it doesn't have to be great. Just $100 welder will do you so much, and then you are expanding that skill set. And who knows, you might enjoy it. So that's my party piece.
Yeah, that's interesting. And definitely a little bit of a pushing a skill set there.
Yeah.
And I think that welding for a long time, certainly as us coming out of the the 80s and 90s, the mentality of 70s, 80s, and 90s, that we some of these import welders, it was like, oh, you weren't supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
And at this point in time, you can get that and get some flux core and just start practicing.
And in today's world, where welders are literally smaller than this laptop footprint wise,
Sure.
they're no longer these big transformer machines that you need a huge box. You can literally have a TIG welder that's a stick TIG, and I literally have a plug that I can unplug my 220 plug off and just plug it right in the wall, and it switches itself. I don't have to go in and move wires around.
Mm-hmm.
It is really at this stage of the game where it's really friendly and really easy for someone starting out. And to me, you just need a proper helmet and some gloves, and you're off to the races. So don't be afraid of it. Try it. And again, the Craftsman lawnmower broke. The bracket on the deck broke. Well, broke or weld it back together. You gotta start somewhere.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's fun. That's an interesting, threw a curveball at me, which is all good and gravy. And I actually I think it's valuable, and I think I don't know if we should have talked about what we came up in or not, one way or the other. But
I was spoiled. I might as well have been a rich kid for my shop.
you
I
might as
grew
well
up
have
in.
been for the shop that you grew up in, right? Absolutely.
So
And we'll talk about that. I was gonna say, what my three things are, right? And I truly believe in the buy once, cry once mentality at this point in my life. I
Yep.
grew up with
sometimes you can't though.
sometimes you can't,
Yeah.
right?
You gotta buy the
And-
best you can afford.
And you can buy the best you can afford. And I recognize that. And that's why I think it's important to say that when you are looking at hand tools
Mhm.
specifically, and when you're looking at hand tools specifically, I would recommend that you buy the best hand tools that you can afford.
Yes.
Right.
I
And-
agree with that.
And so the idea
They're
is
a
that
lifelong investment.
that they're a lifelong investment, no doubt. So that the wrenches that you buy right now, the box and crescent wrenches that you buy, if you invest, in a quality set of quality manufactured wrenches or screwdrivers, wire strippers,
Yep.
hand tools specifically, right?
Yep.
Folks who are listening, I'm not saying go out and grab, electric impacts and
No.
grinders and all that kind of stuff.
Gotta crawl before you can walk.
But you have to crawl before you can walk. You have to build that foundation
Yep.
that allows you to do a more quality job, right? And so my own place where I'm at in life is I really want to adopt that keep it simple, stupid
Yep.
mentality more and more, to say, I've seen people who buy wrenches or screwdrivers or vice grip, channel locks type, material or tools, and they just do it because they're cheap, or, hey,
Oh,
I'm going to.
yeah.
And I understand, like, hey, if I wanted to throw a little tool bag in the back of this truck and a little service bag in the back
Right.
of the car, and, I recognize the value of those things. But how many guys and gals' houses, estate sales have we gone to where they just have tools and they don't know where stuff is at?
Yeah.
And they're just willy-nilly about their barn or their garage or
Yep.
in drawers scattered about.
Yeah, you gotta have a little bit of a semblance of order.
You have to have a little semblance of order, which then
and honestly, that brings up a good point. That is a perfect place to go get tools. Is hey, Grandpa, you still using these wrenches? You still using these sockets? And now you have a tool with a story.
sure.
That's the best kind. Or go to estate sales, and what can you get? Can you get those old school good Craftsman wrenches and stuff like that?
100%. And
you can
that's
save a lot of money that way.
and for me, I'm still working with tools that I had as a child.
Yes.
So
and that's honestly a good point too. Parents, go out and buy your kids, and it don't have to be your son, be your daughter too. Get them some tools that they can start out life with.
sure. And I bought both of my kids, I'll be honest, I bought them both cheapo tools because they're
Yeah.
really young when
Yeah.
when they got them. But we made sure that they had something they could practice with, and it could be like mom and dad doing house projects.
Yep.
So they could get in and do their own little projects. I expect them to consume those tools. Those are a consumable.
Yeah.
But then, good quality hand tools will result in good quality outcomes.
Yep.
And therefore you will continue to build upon your foundation. So right now, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was probably 20 plus years into being mechanically inclined before I really discovered quality wire strippers.
Yeah.
And talk about the difference that makes in
it's a
our
huge
ability
difference.
to do a quality wiring install.
Yep.
Versus when we were younger and you're getting a razor blade out or a pocket knife and you're
Yep.
trying to score the sheath and pull it off, right?
Yep.
So those basic high quality hand tools is really high on my list. Number two is going to be the ability to organize,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so being able to find those tools. If you're starting out and you don't have to be in a full garage even.
No.
You can be in that shed.
Yep.
You can be in a tent garage. You
Yep.
could literally have a
Working out of
lean-to
your
of it-
basement.
working out of your basement.
Yep.
And the ability to reach down and grab that quality pack out box or bag
Yeah.
as we've been
all the difference.
makes all the difference as we've been doing our house build. I have 2 or 3 different bags, and I know that hand tools are in this bag, power tools are in this bag, batteries that go back and forth for charging, those types of things. And that level of organization makes the project. It takes a half an hour project, and it keeps it as close succinctly to that half an hour as possible, versus, hey, I'm spending 15-20 minutes just looking for this tool,
or an hour,
right? And so basic high quality hand tools, organization, right?
That's another thing too. I remember the first toolbox I ever got was my dad didn't tell me what we were doing. We went to the Sears when it was actually the Sears,
right?
And we're looking at toolboxes, and we got a little menial, nothing special, low quality but decent toolbox, and got some tools, and he made sure I had something to start out with. And I was in junior high or so when he did that, so it was time to invest in those quality tools, like you said. And I still have all that, even though I've gotten bigger boxes and fancier tools and upgraded to the 9s. I still have those things, and I remember those fondly at this point. So do that when you can.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was going to say the piece of organizing as well. And so whether it be that toolbox or some shelves or one of the things,
be a wooden box.
It could be a wooden box. When I was working for a large nonprofit institution out of Pittsburgh many years ago, they were disposing of basically their records, right? As you got to think about your paper records as a society. We used to keep them in these huge file boxes and cabinets, and as it moved digitally, as they scanned and digitalized them, they were disposing of that to free up space. And I ended up with a number of their old file cabinets. And that's what I started out with for drawered. They meant to hold lots of heavy paper and reams of stuff. And so they had nice big rollers on them. And that's what I started out with to organize my junk, in my first iteration of a garage. And where that is so also valuable is keeping a free floor space. Right. And I know you were picking up from this weekend, you were picking up Bay 1 here at our facility, but honestly, my mom was in at the shop over the weekend vacuuming out her van, and she was able to move about and roll the vacuums around and do what she needed to do. And all too often I look at pictures on the internet, and I see people's garage space just,
it's a dumping ground,
looking like a dumping ground, and I just think to myself, like, how do you move efficiently? How do you think clearly? Now that I need to get down and roll under a vehicle or slide under a vehicle,
again, just take that little broken door out to the garage and tinker with it, or that kind of stuff. The amount of funds you can save, and you don't have to, again, go full-fledged into a vehicle. It's just amazing. It's dividends.
Well, and you're 100% right. So the ability for you to take that hinge off the front door and take it back to your workbench in your little shed garage or whatever, and do your job. If it's all cluttered up and schmutzed over with stuff, you're not going to be able to get that project done. Again, so those quality tools, that organization, that ability to actually move through the project I think makes you more successful. People think, oh, I got to run out and I got to get Milwaukee everything, and I got to get electric impacts, and I got to get a lift, and I hear that stuff out of folks all the time, and we have to recognize our own place and say, hey, it's easy for us to say because we have all that at our disposal now. But if we were to be giving advice back to ourselves, our younger years, say, hey, you know what, you don't invest too heavily in that. Take those small incremental steps to build out your own space to get little projects done well. And I think the last piece for me, and I guess curveball or not, is a quality tape measure. And so
or 15.
well, and so the idea is, and you definitely, your dad had a tape measure.
Fetish.
Yeah, all over. Here we are again. Oh, gracious. Can't stop with you. You had a tape measure every time you spun in a circle. You had a tape measure.
Yes.
You know, and I appreciate Fred for what he did with us, for us, and that. But the idea that so many tasks can be done just with a quality tape measure, and it's one of those things that oftentimes, unless you are a person who specifically says, I'm going to invest in this, oftentimes you're buying some cheapo bargain bin thing.
Yeah, or the free one you get.
Or the
thrown
free
in.
one you get from the box store.
Yeah.
And or you picked it up, because it's just a tape measure, you know. But I'll be honest with you, without getting entirely too emotional in it, tape measures have a lot of symbolism. They have a lot of ability to make or break a quality job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting. This is probably the more of a somber somber podcast than we normally do, but we had a good mentor in the Jeep community. He's got some cool off-road rigs, and he went ahead and he pulled a tape measure out one time, and he said, he talked about how old did your parents live to, or grandparents or whatever, and he pulls it out in a tape measure, and he says, oh, where do you lie now? Where do you fall on that tape measure?
Yeah.
And that tape measure then really puts in perspective.
Yeah. How far you come and how far you yet to go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And wherever you fall on that tape measure, then can really wake you up or put life in perspective. So I think a quality tape measure, it transcends just your physical application of working on that front door, that squeaky front door, or setting up your suspension, or measuring your lift height.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things you can do with that. There's been a lot of good comments coming in, so we'll come back to Darla. She says they're adding on to their property, so eventually can build a bigger garage. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Brilla, this is scary. I have an air compressor. ... We've upgraded the garage wiring for a level 2 charger, which is for their 4xe.
Yep.
And Linda has a welder. So he puts Joe's garage opening soon. I can't wait to ship some work to you, Joe. That will really be something. I think it could be Linda's garage though as well.
She's flexing on it.
Yeah,
Like
she's flexing on him. Chip says you could say that keeping an organized workspace is like sharpening an axe, and I appreciate that. That reference goes back to the American Hustle podcast. And Ken Kushner adds, tape measures are almost like a 10mm socket.
That's
so
true.
there's where
That's
Fred.
why you need 15 of them.
That's why you need 15 of them, no doubt. So let's talk about our places, our humble beginnings. What did you have starting out?
Very young. I mean, just starting out. We had obviously always had a welder. We always had a mill and a lathe my entire life.
That's amazing.
We always had a big, heavy big, heavy workbench with a big, heavy vise on it.
Absolutely.
So something you could wail on and it would not move across the floor.
I wondered if a big vise was going to come up in the conversation.
It was always heated.
You
always.
Oh my God! Wait till I come into this conversation.
And my dad also. I mean, we're talking. The first garage I can remember was just a 2-bay garage, and he had all that stuff in there, plus 2 cars. And he, around like 92, 93, so very young in my life, he built his dream shop, his pole barn, which was attached to that other garage. And he so insulated it, we almost had air conditioning. It wasn't actually air conditioning, but he had a plan and it worked. And it was almost always 62 year round. Didn't matter if it was 90 degrees outside or 10 below. So that is honestly another thing, just kind of a sidetrack. I have heard more people have more excuses about why they didn't get projects done in the winter because their shop's not warm.
Oh,
well, I gotta go turn on the heater, and an hour from now I can get started. Don't let it get below freezing. Anyway,
listen to you.
And he is his first lift was a scissor lift, which Neil also is familiar with those.
Mm-hmm.
And he used that as long as he could, and then he got a 4-post a little bit later. and that is the blessing that I grew up in. Pretty much, we were always able to go do something or make something or tinker with this. I remember a simple project like the chairs in our dining room swiveled, and they only make those to last so long.
Yep.
And the swivel started to break apart, and it had plastic and all that stuff. And he made new swivels for those.
Unbelievable. That's cool.
It just kind of was a good thing to be exposed to. You don't just throw things away. You fix things. You upgrade things. You make it as best you can, and stuff will last you a long time. And luckily, I've been able to bring some of those, after my dad's passing, into my shop. Like, I have his workbench and his vise and his welder and that kind of stuff. So I already had a leg up his air compressor over a lot of young people. And then I've tried to, in his honor, just continue to expand and get back what I once had, sort of, as much as I can anyway.
Sure. You did move spaces one point in time.
So many times.
Fred was still alive when we first met.
Yep.
And you actually had a garage you had rented elsewhere. You
Yep.
know, at some point in time, your dad's space becomes your dad's space, and
Yeah.
you trying to push out on your own.
Yep.
And it's important to note that that existed up until basically Fred's passing.
Yes.
That was not yours. You did not have a silver spoon, right?
No.
I mean, you then had to start all over again, which is actually might be. I don't know. It's questionably it might be harder, right? I don't.
Sucked.
And to say, hey, I know what it could be like. I never knew. I didn't have a taste of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I never had a taste of what
I
it
used
could
to tell
be.
people all the time, like, I remember what my dad would do, but now what do I do now that I have a chunk of steel on the floor with a hammer?
Yeah. Oh God, we talked about that all the time. You know.
And I am just now almost staring at 40 in the face, even close to what my dad had.
Yeah.
Which I still think I had to jump on him.
You're still a
bit.
jump on him because perspective and
But it
profession.
makes me appreciate what I grew up with so much more, because I know now what the struggle and the strife it took to make that shop be what it is.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it gets into kind of the different applications of people in life, right? And so we have, potentially you and your storyline of saying like, hey, I know what it's like to have a functioning machine shop,
Yeah.
than to not have it. And you had your own little storage garage at one point in time you
Well,
shared with somebody
I
else.
literally had rental, one of those drive up, the door go, unlock your door, and there's your tools and there's your spare parts.
Yeah.
I literally had a storage space.
Storage unit space
Yeah.
for a garage at one
And
time.
when the garage you're talking about was actually a leg up over that. So
Right, and then when you moved in one of those apartments, you just had a little one bayer, and
one outlet or no electricity at all, no insulation, no floor.
So it's interesting to see somebody who knows what it tastes like, what that goodness is, and then has to redeem it, right? Has to then build it on your own.
And you gotta think about would it have been awesome to have a cement floor in that rental garage? Yes. But I got some plastic, I got some pallets, and I got some thrown out countertops, and I made a floor.
Yep. 100%.
Something I could jack on, something that the car was up off the moisture.
Yep.
Just do the best you can with what you got.
100%, and that's valuable to say. That was your experience. There is the people out there who are generational businesses, and their grandparents started building the shop, and it just kept building, and their parents built the shop, and it, kind of built that business and shop, and they're approving upon it, and as long as they value that, then that business, it has that leg up.
Yeah,
fully.
That's
right?
the hardest thing. Is this human nature when until you've had the not have it, it's harder to appreciate.
Right, that's the contrast. For me, I had straight garbage, right? And so,
your parents were not mechanics.
My parents were not mechanics. They were
machinists.
public or machinists. They were public educators.
Yeah.
But as teachers, they were poor, and ultimately, they had to do things out of necessity. So working on the vehicle or working on that squeaky garage door was out of necessity because they were too poor to pay somebody else at that time. And
thankfully your family has always been very community central. And hey, if Uncle Ted has something, then we can
Sure.
go borrow it.
And
use
we've
it.
absolutely, and that's the thing is our family has been very supportive as an extended family.
Yeah.
But myself, as you've already alluded to in the conversation, I probably did most of my life. I've done more life.
Started the business.
I started the business in a yard.
Yes.
Right. So anybody who's listening now and they look in at our social media, at the podcasts, at the fact that we travel, the vehicles, the production, the stuff, the 5,000 square foot facility, all of that kind of stuff. Understand that I was in a yard digging through the dirt, shoring up floor jacks on cardboard, or not cardboard, but plywood, pieces of wood. I still remember sandblasting, setting up a bumper on a trash can and running that little 8-gallon compressor at full duty cycle. You know what I mean?
Just it's oilless and it's just
and
the
just
neighbors are
hammering
looking
away.
at you.
And I'm sandblasting, trying to paint stuff. That the nature of what I started with was a driveway.
Yeah.
And if I was lucky, a tarp thrown over the place of the vehicle that I was
that's
working
when
on.
Things went wrong, and it took a little longer than you thought.
Took longer than we thought, right? But for me, the idea was that I needed to have my tools be able to go in and out of a space. And so whether that was a makeshift storage unit or a basement or, wherever, that I had to be able to pack up and take my tools in and out of any given circumstance. And of course we have the really famous story of, as I continued to move the business along, I actually did a lift kit for a paying customer
in your driveway,
in a gravel driveway at an apartment I was renting at the time.
Before my wedding.
Before your wedding, on your wedding day, right? Which is, one of those fantastic stories. And
they were late like normal.
Well, that goes with the territory. My wife tried to claim that I'm the slow one in our relationship, and I was like, "Well, we're gonna hold on to this one."
50-50.
Right. I looked at her. I thought, are we having this conversation right now? Like, are you kidding me? So she doesn't watch or listen to the podcast, so we're safe. We're safe.
He thinks he's safe.
Yeah, right. And of course we have that fantastic story of when we first met, and I was partying, Jeep or Jeeps
actively,
and you were in Ohio and I was down in Pennsylvania, and you needed some flywheel bolts, I think it was.
Yep.
And I unfortunately knew exactly where they were, buried in the dirt at the end of the driveway.
Yes, where he once was.
Where I once was working out of, and I had an opportunity. I've been exposed to so many different things, and my parents have always been very supportive. They've given me tools for success in that regard. That I flew to Arizona one time, and it was really neat to see their garages, their professional business garages.
It's just a ceiling or a roof.
It's just a roof. It looks like our awnings at a gas station, and then they have like a 10x10 or bigger, lockable storage unit. So it goes back to good electricity and tools and then pulling the welder out, and then you put your tools away at night back into the little storage unit, and there might be a lift under that awning. And so I've always had that in my mind. And of course, like I said, I've gone through a number of different iterations. We had from one base to when the business totally went full time, it was in my household 2-bay, attached garage. It's nothing special. It's just the same as anybody else's household garage. To a barn, which with some people,
all the barn activities
with a dirt floor and chickens next to the Jeep. We used to take phone calls, and I would have to walk out of the barn and be, "Oh, excuse me, let me it's a little noisy in the shop right now," and it's because there was chickens croning in the distance. And then obviously we never had heat for the
longest
all of that. So it was the thing for me was that you can work out of any space. You
Yeah.
can do at whatever level of that project you care to do.
It's
right?
all about the state of mind.
It's about that state of mind. It's about that volition. As I was cleaning out some of that old 2-bay garage this weekend, I was looking at this stuff going, why do I still have this? What, and some of it was that cheap tools that I was like, man, why did I waste my money on this? Now, in that
Gotta
moment,
start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere,
pass that on to the next person.
and that's absolutely right, So, interesting stuff as far as setting up your own home garage space. And again, that can be a shed, a tent, a tarp, your basement, wherever it is advantageous for you to tinker and embrace that DIY Jeep lifestyle, right? It's not all about, hey, you're gonna do your next 1-ton swap or custom crossover steering. It's about, again, embracing that DIY lifestyle. We are going to take a quick little transition here, quick break, and we'll come back with our
not sponsored.
hashtag not sponsored. I thought.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Jeffrey, I wish.
Or is it playing and we just don't know it?
No, it's definitely not playing. We were doing so
Okay.
good. We're just gonna jump right
That's
into.
fine.
We're gonna jump right into it.
So, in pure thing, we've had a lot of vacuums over the years.
Yes.
And a lot of them were free.
I was gonna say vacuums have been like tape measures.
Yes.
I've bought a lot of vacuums at auction
Yeah. I remember
or free.
my childhood vacuum was one my dad, one of the few times he was actually employed by somebody else, dug out of the dumpster, brought it home, cleaned it out, and we used that thing for at least 20 years.
Right. All right. I have not met, well, until I vacuumed fire.
That don't hashtag
Until
do
I
not
vacuumed
recommend.
fire, I would,
Yeah,
I've not really met a vacuum that I couldn't kill. I mean, they slowly die.
Yeah, they
But
do.
all
But we
right,
finally-
I've killed a couple now that I
You've
say
killed
that.
a lot of vacuums.
All right.
Anyway, we found a vacuum that we feel is worthy of this.
Of this
is honor.
hashtag not sponsored honor, right?
And I was actually shocked. It is a Vacuum Master, but they are actually in with Kenmore, Armor All, and Lawn Master.
Interesting.
I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together, Lawn Master and Vacuum Master, but hey, here we are.
Yeah.
The one in question that we have had for, I'd say, about a year or so
Yeah,
now,
about a year or so now.
is a 14-gallon, 6.5 peak stainless steel drum
Mm-hmm.
wet dry vacuum, and we can attest to the wet.
Yes. Yeah, we absolutely can. And I love the fact that it's a stainless steel drum
Yeah.
and a big horsepower as far as
Oh, yeah.
a shop vac is
Yeah,
concerned.
and it is tough. We have yet to make it even squeak about dying,
Yes.
and we have used it for all the inappropriate things. We haven't vacuum fire with it yet, but I know the canister was up to the task.
I did buy the stainless canister so that if I wanted to vacuum fire, we could.
Yeah, we like options.
But I recognize the error of my ways, and I have, chosen to
Maybe not vacuum fire.
maybe not vacuum fire. So that's valuable. Hashtag go back and find one of our earliest how many vehicles and things that I've set on fire.
Yes, so many. And then also our recent addition to the shop is a 5-gallon, 5-peak wall mount, which is perfect for that detailing, cleaning out the car, all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that would be, if you were using it at home. So we're going to be using, and again, this is why I thought it was valuable to talk about how you set up your garage and how we set up as a professional. We now have like our vacuum station. We talk all the time about as we develop procedures and processes, places that have a home, they need to go back there. We have the wall mount above the
And the vacuum
16 gallon.
You can travel around with it, but it has a station screwed to the wall. It snaps in.
Right,
don't
keeps
have
that
to-
organization.
All the tools are on it.
So for us, not only do you have your standard, hey, we want to vacuum out, a carpet that's gotten dirty, but a lot of our customers will come in with animal infestation under the hood.
Oh, it's so bad.
Whether it be acorns or black walnuts, or they've taken insulation out of
Seen
the
it
wall, all of it. Now, when we do an oil cooler, the reason that wet vac is so valuable to us is why?
Because you open that all up and you get all the bad fluids down in the valley of the motor, and we try to clean that up as appropriately as we can because we don't want you to have a mess on the home floor when you take it home and park it in your nice garage.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to suck all that crap out of there, and we've tried a lot of different things.
Sure.
We do have, vacuum pots and that kind of stuff for like bleeding brakes. But there's usually chunkies and leaves, and you can imagine what's down
dirt
there.
and mud contaminant,
Yeah,
and
it's
those
not
acorns
pretty.
we were talking about. And so I've seen a number of people, on the big scale of the internets doing, or at least, kind of your more mechanically proficient folks who are really endeavoring into this oil cooler assembly job, which is plaguing the JK model
Yep.
specifically,
Yep.
the 3.6 JKs.
Well,
and,
that's the only option.
No, the 3.8 JKs.
Oh, true.
Oh, look at you.
Sorry.
You totally put those 3.8 JKs
I'm
out there. We
sorry.
apologize for
I'm
mad
sorry.
scientist. So, we've seen people doing that, and I watched this stuff. Now, you have coolant, you have oil, you have your valve, your intake. Inlets are right there, and I'm seeing these people who have been bogging their Jeep, or
Oh, so bad.
if you've been out west, there's red rock dust all over the place, and so the issue is as we pull those kind of that vital underbelly of the top end, up and out of the way, our ability to clean that. And so we're often, wet vacuuming
Yeah.
up the oil, the antifreeze, and the particulate contaminant,
Yeah.
And so that is one of the values for us. And like you said, we've had a bunch of different shop vacs that didn't store as well,
Yep.
or quit on me when I was trying to vacuum out the furnace, just pathetically fell apart. And so, our ability to keep it clean and seamless and efficient workspace is valuable to as we continue to move forward. But that's why, the advantage to a wet or a dry shop vac,
Yep.
you don't want to be doing much of this with your Shark or your Dyson, folks. Oh, you did destroy a Shark. Now that I
did.
say that, you
I did.
vacuum, you did this with a Shark.
Yes.
The
The sharks were harmed.
Sharks were harmed in the making of this business.
still worked
and
afterwards.
No, it didn't. No,
Well,
it
it still turned on inside the
it
suck
turned.
thing.
It smelled terrible because you sucked oil into its engine
was
or
bad.
whatever.
It was bad.
Oh my gracious! Oh, folks,
It was
I
a
hope
free shark.
it was a free Shark. We were talking about our vacuums that we've gotten for free.
Yeah.
I hope that you guys have taken something valuable out of this. We really, really believe that the Jeep life is about DIY experiences. That you too can start wherever you're at. If you so choose. So whether it's that home project where you're going to be putting, fender flare covers and extensions on, or you're going to be doing a wiring up some lights, we want to see you be able to do that, do it successfully,
Mhm.
and understand that you don't have to have, an elaborate professional workshop in order to do it with integrity, with a quality outcome. Sometimes it's small, measurable steps. And, we are that living proof to say that you too can do it and, and come up with a product or a project that you can take pride in. Obviously, we also talked about the vacuums and, our vac masters, and we appreciate their product. Hashtag not sponsored, but if you'd like to, we're here for it.
Yes.
We'll be back next week.
Back to normal.
Back to normal. Jeffrey will be here. We'll actually have transitions. We won't be hot mic'd with me talking about Davey's ability to do mechanical tasks. Fortunately, that's all that was on the docket today. And we've got a lot of Jeeps to work on. We appreciate all of the support from our customers and our followers online, our Patreons. We appreciate all of that. Make sure you tune in. Oh, you know what? I guess I'm going to have to do the live tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We'll tune in for the live. We wish Jeffrey the best of success as he travels the country and camped out and relaxes with the family. We'll see you next week. Jeep on.
Keep on.